Thank you for staying with us. The long-standing tussle between the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, and the federal government is about to be resurrected. ASUU is accusing government of trying to force university lecturers to embark on a fresh strike by refusing to implement the memorandum of action it signed with the union in December 2020. The lecturers call it a deliberate attempt at impoverishing them. Jude, what do they mean by this?
Yeah, the 2009 agreement reached between ASUU and the government of Goodluck Jonathan at that time was meant to be periodically reviewed. Yaradua Jonathan regime was meant to be periodically reviewed. But as we speak, university lecturers are earning the same salary since 2009.
Since 2009?
Yes.
Especially professors?
Yes. And what has even worsened matters is the IPPIS thing. Because the IPPIS came with all kinds of deductions. No lecturer can get up on a particular day and say, I'm sure this is what I'll earn this month.
Deducting the poor salary
illegal deductions and all that.
Inflation has overtaken.
University professors, those of them who have done 10 to 15 years as professors, no one, as things stand now, earns more than 400,000 a salary.
400,000 naira.
Yes. And so you know, when they go to private universities, they get paid much higher than that. So the whole idea of negotiating that 2009 agreement is to ensure that, okay, after a while, if we think that the salary that we are earning is no longer consistent with present day realities in terms of inflation and all that, then we can review from time to time. There was allowance provided for that periodic review, but we refused to get into any form of review with these guys. Now, when they were going to suspend their strike in December 2020, because they suspended, they didn't call it off. There's a difference between calling off a strike and suspending a strike. When you suspend the strike, it means that you do not need to give government any notification before resuming it. So before ASUU decided to suspend that strike in December last year, it was agreed that they will renegotiate that 2009 agreement, and government then suggested on its own that Professor Musalin Jibrin, who used to head the NUC, will head that committee from the side of government. Musalin Jibrin then sat with union leaders and then came up with a review. After that, government simply refused to implement the agreement reached between the Musalin Jibrin committee and ASUU leaders. So Musalin said, see, we have done our job. Hold the Accountant General or the Federation, hold the Finance Minister and the Minister of Labor responsible. I have done my own bit. Now the question is, what is holding? If you set up a committee with a goal in mind, you set up, nobody put a gun to your neck to set up that committee. The committee then finished its work. You then decided to not take action. So what they are doing amounts to provocation, just simply provoking these guys. And I'm saying that, look, if there are two things that if government would do it at this time, I can bet you that that strike will not happen. The UTAS, which is ASUU's response to IPPIS, you were the one who suggested to them that they should come up with their own app that could get the job done. They came up,
their purpose.
Yes, we came up with their own software that could do that job that the IPPIS does, with people not happy with IPPIS, because IPPIS is not flexible. Now, after doing all that, and you had a look at it, there was random sampling and all that, and everyone came to the conclusion that this UTAS is good. You then again refused to allow them to use it. You are insisting on continuing with IPPIS. I mean, you just, it's like just simply provoking people. And I tell you, if they would allow UTAS to happen and implement Musa Linji-Brain's recommendations, these people will not go on strike.
Mujid, when you want to look at you can't really plan with this public university again. It's safer for anybody to say, oh, let my son or daughter go to the the private university, and you can say 4 years. It's difficult these days to, so it shows the level of inconsistency.
Any student will be lucky to spend 6 years on a 4-year course in a Nigerian state-owned university. A student will be lucky.
ASUU affiliated university.
Yes, to spend 4 years in a, to spend 6 years for a 4-year program. Now, the UTAS is supposed to be the university's transparency and accountability solution, which is supposed to take over from the integrated payment platform, the IPPIS. Now, the university system first came up with CONUAS under the 2009 agreement, which is the consolidated university's academic staff salary system. Now, when IPPIS came, they discovered that, just like Jide said, it could not, because there are they need some research grants that comes in from other donors. I mean, federal government is saying that all these grants should go into IPPIS. I mean, how do you now get it out? The process of getting it out, I mean, a lot of things, yes, under the TSA. So now they came out with their own UTAS, and now after they came out with this UTAS about 6 months ago, you now again subjected it to NITDA, that NITDA should go and test it. Now NITDA is saying that after some samplings, it has met 50% of that desired effect. You know, but I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because just last week, the federal government released the sum of 55.5 billion.
That money is said to be in CBN.
No, it's now on its way to the universities now. But then it's divided.
You have to go
it's divided into two. There is the 30 out of the 25 is revitalization fund, which is meant to rehabilitate and do some structural stuff, infrastructural upliftment in the universities. While 22.5 billion, 25.5 billion is actually the end academic allowance, which is supposed to augment the lack of increment in their salaries since 2009. So, but the 25.5 billion, according to ASUU now, it's a paltry sum, because if you are expecting 180 billion, for example, and you are getting 25, I mean, you can imagine the backlog since 2009 till date. So that's why ASUU is saying that deliberately federal government is trying to frustrate it to look bad in the eyes of Nigerians in a country where the Attorney General of the Federation is pushing to pay 480 billion to an individual. ASUU and the federal government has been negotiating with ASUU over how much. I mean, education is very key to the bedrock of whatever development we are going to make, and you are treating ASUU, I mean, you are pushing them down. These are professors. These are the guys who even taught most of you guys in school. So it's unfortunate that we can be treating our academics with kid globes. Now we keep comparing Nigerian universities to Ghanaian universities that, Ghanaian universities are offering better stuff. Apart from the fact that we don't want to compare the salaries earned by Ghanaian lecturers to that of Nigerian lecturers in the university system.
Okay, let me take my first caller. Paul is calling us from Calabar.
Hello.
Yes, Paul, please go ahead. Thank you for staying with us.
Gentlemen. Hello.
Paul, go ahead, please.
Yes. Good evening, gentlemen in the studio.
Good evening, you're live. Please go on.
Yes, the issue about ASUU and federal government logjam is an issue that has continued to linger for too long, and I think government has to be sincere. It might interest you to know that an average academic lives on loans. The situation has gotten that bad. IP starts on the next pay instead of the basic pay, which is even causing more pains on academics. So I think government has to be sincere, and I will call on the leadership of ASUU to stand by its decision. There should be no going back, no shifting grounds on this matter.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Julie, apparently, when we solve this problem, one thing is crystal clear. The way things are going now, federal government of Nigeria cannot single-handedly keep sponsoring these universities or keep funding them effectively.
Well, to an extent, I would disagree. The question to ask is, what is the quantum of funds that we have set aside for education? We have never met the UNESCO threshold. The closest we got to meeting it was during the Jonathan era. But we see countries around us, Ghana, devote a much bigger chunk of its budget to education. Let's even start by making education look like our priority, because we have never made it to look like our priority. Let's first increase even the funding. Let's see, from the Second Republic, we've always spent so much money on defense. Even when we were in peacetime, we continue to set aside more money to defense than other sectors in our budget every year from the Second Republic. I remember. So to say, okay, we cannot fund this university. Yes, we are turning out far too many universities. That's the problem. We must first stop this idea of simply every senator wants a university to come from his constituency. All of them, they think that's the way to give back to their constituency. And that is creating problems. States too are sheepishly coming up with universities. Some states cannot even pay the salaries of their university staff. So for the federal universities, can we even try to improve funding? Let us see where that gets us. Then, if we run the universities purely as centers of excellence, they can make money even from products of research and all that. That's how it is done in California, in other countries of the world. Universities are real centers of excellence, and the society benefits greatly from them. The service economy derives tremendously from the output of universities. So let's even improve. Let's see what we can do by improving even the level of funding. For now, go and check, look at our budget and see what we have set aside for education. You know that we are not serious. You see other countries. Was it not the leader of Australia that was asked his priority, these 3 priorities, and he said education, education, education. They are not fools. When they continue to come up with inventions that shape our lives, make our lives better, we will now be seeing them. These are great people. These are what do we call it? That's what other people don't like to hear. Senna climbs. What Senna climbs did not just materialize like that. It takes consistent, solid planning. Our universities have become something else. They have become something else. And if we are not careful, public universities will die a natural death in our country. And it appears that our leaders are not bothered because, of course, some of them will go and open private universities. Their children don't even go to school here anymore. So they will send their children abroad. You see them, they travel abroad without shame. They will snap photographs with their children and during their matriculation and other days. These are people who pass through public universities. You know, how many of them? I know someone who runs his mouth anyhow because he's a big Nigerian leader. He runs his mouth. Meanwhile, he attended a public university here in our country. Today they say, no, you cannot. Public university does not have to be cheap. Meanwhile, their own parents put them in those public universities where they were to school almost free. Almost free.
I have a caller.
Yes.
Yes.
Ayo, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Julius, calling from Ibadan, Oyo State Capital.
All right. Go ahead.
Babajide and Mojit, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Now, what is happening to our education in our country? You see, there's something I want to believe that if we fail to educate ourselves, we're only trying to involve ourselves in trouble in tomorrow. Now, if our university education is at this stage now, what will happen to us in the next 5-10 years? Why? Because this gap we have left behind, we still need to fill it up. And Mr. President promised Nigerians a better deal with education. Honestly, from my own sincere mind, if government will allow each university to have autonomy on their own so that they run their own affairs, so that education in this country will not die. Because Nigerians cannot even afford private university with a humongous amount of money that is involved. The private university that's supposed the public university that's supposed to be a succor is now becoming another thing else. We wish that the president and his handlers will rise up and salvage this situation. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you for your contribution. So, Mojid, when you want to look at it, compare to the reality we have on ground now. Now, let's say that the federal government, they want to avert the strike. What should be put in place to make sure that we don't start year 2022? They lost the whole of year 2020. 9 months in that year. Apart from the COVID pandemic, they lost it to ASUU strike.
I think the federal government should look into the demands of ASUU and ensure that, because the money that ought to have gone to the university system, I mean, we have been on this money for almost 6 months, and they've been going back and forth. Only probably at the weekend, I mean, they were saying that the thing should have hit the accounts of universities. But as at yesterday, we can't confirm categorically whether the 55 billion has entered the university system.
How come we have that kind of ridiculous remuneration over time, stagnated one that has not been till now?
Then, yes, I mean, this is something that should be
less than half a million naira. This
is a review that should be done every 5 years. It's the same problem we have with minimum wage in Nigeria, because, I mean, they are being paid by the federal government too. But it's supposed to be renewed, I mean, to be reviewed every 5 years. But then, in the light of present day reality, I think the tuition fee and accommodation fee should be reviewed by a joint committee of probably the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Labor, and ASUU, because I think paying 90 naira per bed space in 2021 Nigeria
90,000
is not practical, honestly.
Because some state universities, they actually,
for a session,
for a session.
Some state universities, they've been jacking up the school fees.
No.
Like Ondo State now,
yes.
200 and something thousand.
You see, those who go to Ivy League colleges, or even let's look at private universities in Nigeria, they are placed in the same environment. And we say private university lecturers earn more than public university lecturers. How much? The minimum school fees, minimum tuition fee in any of those private universities, I doubt if it is less than 500,000 naira.
Wow.
That is
private university?
Yes,
if you can get anything like that.
I'm just saying that. There are some courses in some
are not to that.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some
Depends
courses.
on the course.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some courses in some private universities that is as high as 10 million naira. Medicine.
Especially in your state.
Yeah.
Medicine and law. But you are also from Ekiti State
I remember that route.
But then, no, seriously speaking,
not everybody can go to those.
Yes.
Not everybody can go to those universities.
Jide, 90,000 naira.
No, we are talking about 2021 reality.
In University of Lagos.
No, okay, look at it this way. 90,000.
When some of the students can even go out and
no, they use iPhone 12 Pro Max.
That is it.
600,000.
Some can use it.
Yeah.
Some women can cut corners and bring an iPhone. iPhone 1000 that their parents can't afford.
That's true.
So, but there are people who will never have become something in life if they didn't pass through the public universities. There are people in today's Nigerian leaders that if not for Awolowo's free education, they would never have tasted education in their lives.
Because their parents were so
let's not forget that. You know, my own parents are civil servants. Back then, if they were asked to pay the kind of money that are now being paid in Redeemers University, Covenant and the rest, they would not be able to afford it. Because I know what my dad was earning.
Yes,
I was the one who used to collect his salary for him. They would never be able to pay.
At a point,
and they would never cut corners. My dad would prefer to die than receive bribe from anybody. So how do people get by? A lot of people today are able to sponsor their children to good schools in our country because they are stealing. Yes.
Facts.
Civil servants are sending children to universities in Malaysia, in Egypt, because they are stealing public funds. This is a fact. So that some people can afford expensive university education does not mean it should be lost on us that an overwhelming majority of our people cannot. And the people who are ruling today, who are taking big decisions that affect you and I, are products of public universities. Without the public university, they would have become nothing in Nigeria. So why are they now watching the public university system die incrementally?
Look at this atmosphere.
Yes.
I mean, what are we talking about?
It's, I think, the federal government and ASUU, and probably another visitation panel should look at
even the holy books.
The
holy books say clearly that there will be poor people around us.
No, definitely.
No, whatever we do, there will be poor people around us, and hard work is not a guarantee that you will have riches. So we must bear in mind that there are people who need these public universities badly. Fingers are not equal. Fingers are not equal. That's why we have to push for the public universities to get a better deal. 90,000 naira for a bed space. Okay, that's room. Maybe there are 4 students in it. 90,000 for one person. Abi? There are 4 students. 90 times 4. Are there not places in this country where you don't pay that much in a year for a room?
But if you
because look, during our own time it was even 90 naira.
My own, I started with 45 naira.
90 naira
1985
for a whole session.
Because accommodation is different from that
I
tuition
know,
fee.
yeah, accommodation
My
is different.
tuition fee was
We
35
post the
naira.
example of accommodation that
my
I
own
used.
my own tuition was 10 naira in 1985 University of Ilorin. But you see, the fact is, we can't compare. Then I was.
We are not saying they should not increase it. They can even increase it, but
Well,
the
to
funding
just
still
meet
has
the
to
reality.
improve.
That is it. There must be
funding was improved.
increment in the funding. We can't continue to put defense as the highest, whereas we have the problem. We have the biggest problem of defense in the country today.
Yeah.
So
Lack of education.
Government should increase fund. If you the higher you push up the funding for education, then the lesser the pressure that we are facing from people who are out of school, who are causing all these problems.